very expensive gadgets. There are even developers that have been developing for the last 2 years that have not had a VRS set to test. They are just deploying to like the web.
Those ones are not developers, they are developers.
No. So you are a developer because you don't have money to buy like a VRS set. You are not a developer. You are a developer.
Please, if you are a developer, don't mind me.
Throughout our school days, when I was in school, right, I did not have VRS set.
This is a real problem. What you are saying is a real problem.
We had to deploy to like mobile phones, you know, that 360 sort of thing.
Or even Google Cardboard, stuff like that.
Right. The best we could come across was Google Cardboard, and that even took time, right? And we went for competitions, maybe like a design challenge or things like that. All you have to do in terms of, we built our product on Unity. We can show them that this is 360 on our system, but the judge could not experience it. We that we are selling it gone. We did not experience deep one. Hi everyone, my name is Babatunde Fatai. Welcome to another episode of XR Atlas Podcast. On this episode, I will be speaking to Micheal Oscar, a mover in the gaming industry in Africa. Micheal is the People and Programs Coordinator at Africa Comicade, and Africa Comicade is one of those key startups that are really making waves when it comes to the gaming extended reality ecosystem, both in Nigeria and Africa. I was actually interested in putting this together because of the sorts of work that Africa Comicade and the sort of impact that they are making in Africa. And I also wanted to speak to Micheal because his journey and the sort of motivation he has to improve the ecosystem was something I was actually interested in. From the conversation, we touched on a couple of things that I know would be helpful to young people in the ecosystem trying to break into the gaming extended reality ecosystem, and also the average Nigerian that probably knows little to nothing about this emerging technology. I had an amazing conversation with Oscar, and I hope you also enjoyed the conversation with Oscar. Welcome to the show, Oscar.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice to see you again. I've forgotten the last place we met. That's the last place. Where was it?
Microsoft, at the Xbox Hangout.
Xbox Hangout.
Yes,
the one
with the Federal Ministry of Creative Economy.
Yeah, the one with the minister. Quite interesting. I think after that, I've seen you at other places to maybe follow your journey, maybe on the WhatsApp stories or something. I graduated from Unilorin, so at least most of the people you hung out with when you went to Unilorin, they were people that were already on my contact list, and at least I was very happy about that journey, you trying to connect with the gaming ecosystem, so to speak. Can you speak a bit about that before we jump?
Yeah, so we're a small industry, we are growing, and we have a lot of people doing amazing stuff, but they tend to, it looks like we're doing it in our own different silos. And for us to really grow and make that statement that there is an industry, we need to come together. You get the idea. We need collaboration, we need community. And so when I have the time, I do try to make our time to travel and connect with people. And I can say Unilorin is still, one of the most active communities we engage in. We have people right there right now doing amazing stuff in XR, in video games.
Right.
So you went to a great school.
Yeah. I remember being in Unilorin. I and a couple of people, we were actually very motivated around the game development then, and a couple of key skills. But before I go back to the awesome ecosystem of Unilorin, I think one important thing that needs to be addressed is the silo that creatives in Nigeria tend to work in. So there is less collaboration, and that has been something that I've always identified as a problem, because there are people doing things in silo, doing amazing stuff actually in silos. And you could be even in the gaming ecosystem, and after 2 years, you will still find people that has been there as long as you, but you never knew of.
Exactly.
Which is not a good thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, so it's something that is kind of a necessary evil in this space. There are many reasons why people work in silence, to be very candid. Some is collaboration is very difficult. The first thing is, if, for someone in the video games industry, a lot of the stakeholders are driven by passion. And this means that everyone kind of have their own idea, their own big idea. And so when you're in a space where everybody wants to like push the ideas forward, it can become a struggle, especially where money is not flowing to employ people full time. So that means if they are looking for a collaborator or a partner, then the person also has to be interested in your idea. And it can be very difficult because at first you might find people like that and then reality sets in. We need to make money. It's an interesting space, but it's not very lucrative yet. You don't get a lot of revenue. And then when you look at the human nature of creatives as well, these are things that make it very difficult. That's why there are always managers in places like this.
Right, right. I think one thing that the ecosystem can do better is actually like drive collaboration.
Yeah.
That was one thing that I really appreciated from. Okay, so I think one thing that the ecosystem can really benefit from is actually more collaboration.
Yeah.
One thing that I enjoy from school, like at least while I was in school, is the fact that that student spirit really drove collaboration.
Yes.
We could like organize events and we know people would be there. Why? Because all of us are in school.
Yes.
We know we would always attract people like-minded to us. But going into the world after like graduating, it's a different ball game. It's a different ball game to bring people together.
Yes.
But this the gaming ecosystem can really benefit from more collaboration, to be honest. And specifically, I don't want to bring into virtual and augmented reality because it also fits into the gaming ecosystem. So let's talk about that in the wide term. Okay, so I was actually interested in your journey, especially the things that you and the people at Africa Communicate do or have done or are doing. Right, and can you share a bit about your personal story and how you got into the Africa Communicate trade?
Yeah, okay. It started way long ago. I think around 2014. I did get into the games industry as an intern. I was looking for a space for internship in Lagos, Nigeria. And that's where I found the organization called Center for Tech. And I got there and they say, hey, we build games. I was like, really? I love games. And I would love to learn how to build one. And that's how I really got into the space. So I started learning how to build games. My first engine then was Construct. So I know there are a lot of people that are like, if you don't code, you don't build games. But Construct was like a no-code engine. And I think it also allows you to program with JavaScript. Back then, Unity also was using JavaScript and C#. Now it's mainly C#. So I got in, learned Construct, learned Unity. I became a games facilitator. So I was teaching people how to build games. Sat for my Unity certification exam. We were about 7, I think, the first in West Africa. And I passed. I passed, by the way. I'm stressing that because I don't build games actively. I don't even code actively right now. But back then, it was a whole different thing. And so we focused on teaching youth, teenagers how to build games. We organized community events. Global Game Jam, it's still running up to now. We used to be one of the most active sites in the whole of Nigeria. So at the office back then at Ogba, you would have about 30, 40, 20 people coming, stay in the office for like 3 days, building games. And that's where I met a lot of amazing people. Yeah, but the whole idea with Africa Communicate really came about when the question of what next started coming in. Right? Oh, my child has learned how to build games. My son loves building games. What next? Where's that job opportunity? What can he do with this? What certification is there? You get the idea. And I started asking myself that same question. Even the other game developers there were so many awesome people. There was, I know Samson was one of the OGs in the industry. Edushola and Ali were building. They had Black Ring. We had Lukman. A lot of these people also started seeming to pivot. Some of them started pivoting to web development. That was also the era the Andela learning community was growing, and there's a lot of jobs for mobile apps developers. So it became interesting because people who even had the best skills were faced with the reality that they have to survive, they have to feed, and they now had to pivot those skills into web and app development. And that's where I asked myself that big question: what next, really? If this industry is to grow, aside just events and all, what really? And that led me to resign in 2017. I resigned from my job. By then, I'd become head of operations at Center for Tech. So 3 years, I came from games facilitator down to head of operations. So I did everything: customer service,
just
marketing.
2 more years. See you.
Yeah. And I resigned, I think, about 2017. 2019, I got into the West Africa program in Ghana, where between 2017 and 18, I started exploring entrepreneurship, because I came to realize that at the end of the day, no matter how passionate you are, if you cannot sell, if there's no business, that service, that product will not grow, right? And that led me to West Africa. And at West Africa, I learned software entrepreneurship. I got connected with about 54 people from 13 different African countries. And we were staying together in the house. There was that cultural exchange. There was me learning about markets. And it was really awesome. So right in the heart of COVID, my now co-founders, then that's Tosin and Adewale, reached out to me saying, hey, they wanted to organize a COVID game jam. Like, people are at home, there's nothing people are doing, so they would love to organize a game jam. And I was like, no, we're not organizing a game jam. We're going to organize something much more bigger. And we're not focused on Nigeria anymore. We're going to be looking at the entire of Africa. That's Africa Communicate came to be. So we started out with our convention, the Gamerton. And it was really crazy. I mean, people are like, do Africans have internet? Can there be that virtual collaboration? Even Global Game Jam was always country-specific and physical events. But this time, we were expecting people across Africa to collaborate with one another virtually. And at first, it seemed very impossible. Good news is it worked. It worked at the end of the day. We had support more from the global community, because we reached out to a lot of stakeholders locally, and they're like, we're not so sure. But we had Peter Vesterbacher, the maker of Angry Birds, join our first program. Like, there was no track record that we've done this before. We had Humble Bundle come on board to support us. And that's how that journey began.
Interesting. So I would like to go to the beginning of the journey. And that was when you actually got into game development. There are many people that are probably either early in their career stage or are looking to pivot. And there's one thing that, at least from most of the people in our career line that I've seen, one thing that is uniform across board is that passion. Like, that passion needs to first be the thing. Like, you need to first either love playing game or love to create before you be able to say, because it is not easy. I know that
it is tough.
There are many people that look from outside. They think game development is the same as playing a game. Same in terms of fun. But it is not. It is not at all, right? So that passion that actually drove you into, I think I can do this thing. That's something that I've always found uniform across board, at least for those in the ecosystem. The other thing also that you mentioned was actually how hard it was to monetize the skill after getting it.
Yes.
That is something else that a lot of people need to understand, because I've had many young people, right, that some from years ago that came to me and they said, I want to gain these skills. And many of them, they probably had the wrong idea in terms of they could easily monetize, but that is not the case. So first, passion gets you in, but after you get in, reality also sets in. Now, how do you deal with reality? For me, at least from my own personal view and opinion, I think the first way of dealing with reality is to understand that no skill is wasted, especially when it comes to game development skill. I was actually happy with the way where you said some of your friends actually pivoted to like web development and app development. And from my experience, for the fact that I've dabbled in both, I see that if you've learned game development, actually going into those are way easier,
Definitely.
right? Then when you start mixing Web 2 development with mixing your 3D development.
Yeah.
Then you start getting things like, let me use Swift XR
Exactly.
as an example.
Yeah.
Right. So, yes, the first passion drives you in first. Second thing also is you do not necessarily need to monetize that exact skill, right? But that skill would prepare you for other things that are to come.
Sure.
Right. So one other thing also, I'm actually inspired by your passion. When I say I mean like the three co-founders of Africa Communicate, right? It is seeming that COVID did not just birth health startups,
yeah.
because
it was a blessing to
people
us.
think it's just like health startup that COVID birthed, but as you can see or as you've heard, COVID also birthed some game oriented.
It was we were like COVID babies, because the truth is, now that things have gone back to physical events, it would be a struggle now to get people together virtually. Actually, It would be. People would be seeking more physical interaction. Yeah. But COVID was like just our blessing.
Yeah. And I think COVID showed everybody that it was possible to do things absolutely virtually.
Yes.
There were so many barriers, but those barriers were mental. They were not like actual barriers. They were mental barriers where, for example, companies would think, we cannot work 2 days.
Exactly.
From the office. We are going to lose a lot, right? But COVID forced us into that particular scenario. It forced us to leave it. Yeah. Then a lot of things came out of it. There are many companies that would not go fully physical anymore. MTN, where I work, definitely not. But the bosses do come.
Yeah.
But the majority of the workforce do not come to work. And I was not there then. I was at PwC as at that time. The thoughts for PwC at that time, there was no way we were working from home. But after working from home, we found out that it was doable. It was. Right. So for African Communicate, we know how or why it started. The point is now, what is the goal right now? Like, what are you guys? I see that there's a lot going on in terms of because I'm sure impact cannot just be just towards one part.
Yeah.
It needs to be distributed so that you can even serve a wider ecosystem.
Exactly.
So I would like to understand how all that activity comes together. Like, what is the goal?
Yeah. What can I say? You are right in the fact that there is a lot going on at Africa Communicate, and sometimes it's a struggle for even us to keep up. Because what most people know us for is the Gameathon. And the funny thing is, in the scheme of things, the Gameathon is just like the smallest thing we actually do. The Gameathon is the event, it's the community side, it's the public-facing side. So we actually do much more internally. And now I like to say we're in phase 2 of Africa Communicate. So the last 3 years has been phase 1, where we came up with the idea to do something that can promote the business side of the games industry, the sustainability of the industry. And so for that first 3 years, it was all about learning, trying and failing. The Spark Fellowship that is happening today was initially launched in 2021. And we did that. We had a pilot test. We had so much to learn from that. Yeah. The ARC Fellowship was also initiated in 2021. Like, there's so many things we started 2021. The E-Africa Challenge, it happened 2021, couldn't happen 2022. Then we brought it back 2023. So we've learned, we've had some key learnings in the past 3 years. Now we're looking at implementing. So this is phase 2. The Gameathon stands as that convergence point for stakeholders in the industry to interact, connect, exchange ideas and opportunities, physically and virtually. But beyond that, there is a need for us to have more successful stories, more studios that are successful. And by successful, the key indicator there is they are making revenue. Not just raising funding, they are making revenue. So that's one thing we'll be dedicating a lot of our efforts to in the following years. In the next 3-4 years, that's one focus. We want to be able to have studios that build games that make money. Not just, hey, we are the first African. That's like, I don't know why people still use that phrase. That's like so cliche and old school. Nobody cares if you made the first African game. Is it making money? Can you sustain yourself from the game itself? Can you employ people? That's the only way I've seen we can build a sustainable ecosystem, by having businesses. And so that's where the ARC Fellowship comes in. All right. Currently, last year at the Gamerton, we gave out about $30,000 to split across 10 studios in Africa, across Africa, like small micro prototype grants. And that's something that is common in the West, right? And the idea is they can use this money to sustain themselves, to push their products further. This year, they would be entering the ARC Fellowship, which across 6 to 9 months, they will be interacting with key stakeholders in the global games industry to understand more about fine-tuning their products and also monetizing, running a business, running a studio as a business. And from there would be another pitch competition where we're open to now invite publishers and investors to fund them. And the whole aim of this is the more successful studios we have, the better the ecosystem can grow. On the other side, we have stakeholders saying we don't have great game developers, right? I mean, if you look at 3D artists, I think Nigeria and Africa has a lot of amazing 3D artists. We might struggle in animation, but we also have some really great animators out there. But game developers, we've seen most of the games that come out. I think because the time to success is very long. Like some people think once you watch a tutorial and you can publish and port it, you've built a game. That's not the case. And people will break down your game. You're looking at user retention, you're looking at graphics, you're looking at mechanics, so many things before you even come down to how can you monetize, right? So looking at that talent issue as well, that's where the Spark Fellowship comes in. So currently we are backed by Unity to train about 200 people across Africa in these skills for the industry. And so right now we have about, oh my goodness, yeah. Right now we have about 170 applications for the first batch. About 150 would be going in. And then there will be a second batch by April. So that we can meet up with the numbers. But we're training them across games, animation, XR, and even the non-technical side. The core idea now is to groom talent within the community and see how we can get them access to opportunities within and outside the community. Then just some little more programs quickly. For the children's side, we have the creatings. There's not a lot of emphasis because we want to build that business first. Once there's money, we can play around. Trust me, we have lots of ideas. But one other key one that I would love to mention is the fact that we've been focused, and we will be doing more of that. That's in creating more data for stakeholders in the public sector to better understand what is going on. Like I said, the industry seems to be eating. So people need to know who are the players, what are they doing, what is the impact, how can it succeed, how can they collaborate. So we'll be focused on creating that kind of content. And then for the creators themselves, we're looking at encouraging more people to explore social entrepreneurship. One key thing I think every creative in the industry is not taking into consideration is we're Africans. We ideally don't spend our money on entertainment, right?
Right.
Until NetNinja closed recently, we know where we're getting our movies from.
I was not getting my movies from there.
Yeah, you can say what you want to say on camera, but we know where we get our movies from. For the all through my life growing up, we know where we get our games from. Go to Computer Village, we know.
Okay,
right?
that one I can admit to that.
You get, and so you're now coming into that sector and you're saying you also want to build games. How will you monetize? The market might not give you money, might just give you numbers, right? We have like 200 million people in Nigeria, fine. How many of them can afford to spend $2? You get my point. So we need to understand that if you want to make money, why is fintech thriving? It's because it's serving a dire need, a pressing need. So if we want to monetize our creativity, we must also solve a problem. And entertainment is not our key problem right now. And if you're looking at entertainment, social media and the comedians have tackled it. So if you are saying to solve the entertainment problems, people are laughing on Instagram and TikTok. So if you explore social entrepreneurship using your creativity for good, I see people now building games that teach people about climate change, teach people math subjects, or animations that talk about our culture. People in the diaspora are looking at that. These are fields that you are solving a problem and people will be willing to pay for. And that's the business side that is missing in the sector. People are not doing their research. People are driven by emotions. Oh, I love PUBG. I'll build a PUBG kind of game. What's the market saying? Will they pay? And who are you targeting? And so those are the core things we are focusing on. Yeah.
Interesting. So I like the way you've broken those down, and I would like to take some of those. Right? Okay. So first and foremost, the most important thing I actually want to touch is the talents in the ecosystem. You are right. So there are not that much talents. There are not that much talents that there are many talents, but there are not enough talents, right? And one thing that I've noticed, at least for the I won't say companies or startups or brands, for the brands that are doing things right, they must always go after talent, training the talents, right? Be it Imisi 3D. I'm not so privy so much into what the training that Africa Communicate does, but I do know that obviously if you are bringing people together for a game jam, for example, those people have to gain some skills somewhere, right? Imisi 3D, currently we run African XR community, and I can tell you that at least 60 to 80% of what we do is talent. I think that's grassroots. It might be something that is missing. I don't think it's missing. It's something that every expert in the ecosystem understands that needs to be addressed. Right. As much as we want the ecosystem to generate, let's say, $200 billion for all of us to share, not equally, obviously. As much as we want that, we still need talents that are very good actually to make that happen. And no matter the company that you are, no matter the startup, even if you are a multinational, if you are not involved in building the talents, I don't think you should be involved in taking the and that's one thing that I think the ecosystem currently really needs. No matter who you are, even if you are the studios that you are giving grants to, I would really advise that yes, you are using your grants to actually focus on the products that would bring money in. You should also think 2 steps forward. I think you should get people that are really passionate about this, bring them together, and also teach them to be the next generation.
Actually, that's how our training works. That's why I call it an ecosystem, basically, because the people in the Spark Fellowship, the Spark Fellowship ends with internship, and they are interning with the studios in the ARC Fellowship. That's how, so we've built our own kind of circular economy in-house. You get? So we're training 200 people. Because one thing with trainings I see these days is I'm like, oh, you're training 100, 500. Who are you training them for? Exactly. You get my point? Where are they going to go? So you learn how to build games. Okay, fine. Build the game. You want to be like EA. Do you know how much investment those people have? Do you know how many people are on their team? Where will you get that kind of resource, right? And if you say you want to compete on the global scale for remote job, the games industry, between November and January, about 3,000, not less than 3,000 people were fired in the global games industry. So where are you going to? And so people are churning out people, but the truth is they would learn. And another thing is also the time of training, maybe 3 months, 4 months. Most of the people that are building games, like good games, even if we say Africa doesn't have great games, but that's what most people say. Most of them, none of them have spent less than 3-4 years in the industry.
You are right in that.
You get? And so you're training someone in 3 months to come and do what?
You are right in that. So experience is key.
Very key. It's experience the more you do. They say, forgive me, I think they would have to edit this and but the more you turn around, the more you find out. You get? Yeah, so basically, it's that experimentation. It's the number of projects you work on that allows you learn more. You get the point. And so we created that economy where as we're training you, you get to, internship is waiting for you. Opportunities for you to express those skills is there waiting for you. And then when you are done, we now guide you through getting jobs.
Right. Another important thing, apart from training that grassroots, is the verticals that you talked about.
Yes.
I think when people think about game development, XR, extended reality, virtual reality, they always think in a particular direction.
Programming.
Yeah. And also they always think game fun.
Yeah.
The other verticals that you talked about are very, very important. The application of gaming in manufacturing, in the medical sector. Like you said, it is really, really awesome for you to make your research and understand your environment and ecosystem better, right? To be honest, I still feel like entertainment it still stands to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I still feel like it would be easier for you to sell, like, to, let's say, an hospital, a gamified training, a gamified or a virtual reality, like, sort of training around a particular, let's say, operation. It's easier, at least in our ecosystem, to sell that to an hospital than for you to make a game and say, oh, people come and buy.
Yeah. Because entertainment is high risk, high reward. Right? Look at all the budget Disney puts into movies and games also. The point is, when you're dealing with entertainment, you're dealing with people's emotions. And you might be so psyched about your game, but you don't know how the next person is feeling. Right. So that's why most of the time, some of the greatest successes are like, wow, it just happened. Look at Among Us. Nobody expected it to be good. The company was literally almost folding up. And then boom, somebody saw it, played it, and people loved it. So it's emotion driven. You can't really sit there and start doing awesome projections. You can project, you'll make money, but if you even release it on the wrong day, a great game might not sell. There are so many games out there that have been there for years, but it's just that right time, right feeling, right vibe. You get my point.
Right. The other part also that I think we need to look into is actually, like, taking on the great partners. So I don't think, for example, EA and all those, I don't think they believe, so they are trying. I think even this last conference that we attended together, they were, I've forgotten the company that is key there, an external partner, I've forgotten, but they are a game publisher. And at least external. And I think they are starting to believe in us in terms of we can create great content that we can actually publish into their stores. So I don't think we should leave it only up to the government to forge a partnership with such organizations.
I don't think anybody is even looking at it.
I know. But the government can facilitate.
Sure, things. They can. And we are even, African government is in conversation with them. But I don't think anybody is like, government, help us. Right. So we've grown up.
They are trying. Let's give kudos where kudos.
Definitely.
At least the Minister of Communications, Information, Communications and Digital Economy is trying.
No, they sent me to Dubai last year. I went to GuideX. That was the Lagos State government, Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology. So they are working, definitely.
They are working. So right, back to the partners. So I think we need to, how do you think we can make our ecosystem more, I won't say friendly, but more attractive to such partners, game publishers? What should we do as, like, game developers, even if you are not a developer? Like, what do you think are the things we can do to make ourselves more attractive to them? Because we cannot possibly think that we can just establish a gaming store, for example, and it would challenge the guys that already established PS5 and co. I don't think we can just get there. So the best way would be to partner to publish with them also. So what are the things?
Okay. So before I start speaking, disclaimer: this is based on my perspective. This is
almost
based on my
based on our perspective.
Yes. So for me, I see it as a chicken and egg problem, right? A chicken and egg problem. First thing is there's that issue of, must we always wait for that savior? To be very candid, I get worried sometimes to see looking at the fact that we're looking out for one angel to just come down and solve our problem. It doesn't always work like that. What I do know is if we build great games, they will find us. If we position ourselves to be visible, if we build great games wherever you are, they would find you. They are on the lookout as well. And I've also engaged a lot of these global stakeholders. They are doing their market research yearly. They know how much revenue is coming out of Africa, to be very candid. And so Africa is like, yes, Even me, I use that in my deck. Africa is the next frontier, next frontier. And they didn't say now, they said next. You get my point? So what most of them are doing now is they have timelines or projections, like, oh, maybe in the next 10 years, in the next 5 years, we'll be looking at entering the Africa market. So what they are doing is they're like positioning themselves around Africa, but they are monitoring the market. And that's a good thing to know, because it's high risk right now. Nothing super great has come out of Africa so far. So they are looking at the market, they're trying to see what is going on in the market, but a bulk of them don't want to invest their money, while some of them are making little investments. You get, so just test the waters or make their brand more visible or so. And that's kind of cool. But I think what we should focus on is making great games. Once we have a great game, just like what happened with Micheal, I think that was 2022. They collaborated with Crazy Labs in South Africa, and they published the game Precedent, and it was #1 on US chart.
Interesting.
It made noise. And now you don't see the guy, the guy did not go out there saying Africa's first. No, he built a great game. It made a lot of money, and now he's totally quiet. He doesn't even want to be engaged in press. You get my point? So build great games. So that's the egg problem, or that's the chicken problem. Build great games, because people would see that. The egg now is what it takes to build a great game. And what is a great game? Because a great game is very subjective. And that's the bigger problem. How can we get people to come together to collaborate to build something awesome? Because unfortunately, our economy, it doesn't really support experimentation, right? If you're out there, there are some incentives, even in the society, that allows you to experiment. You're 30, you're 35. Even the expectations of society on you is kind of different. Yeah, you are 30. You even have a small job that's paying 200K. Go and marry. Have children. The expectations are so different. And then the pressure. But there, I'm not saying there's no pressure there. There's even more competition in the games industry out there. But the society is different. It's very easy to turn around and see another game developer. We don't know the effect that has, but it kind of inspires you to go more. It makes you know you are not alone. My family don't really understand what I do, and I've been in the industry for a decade or so. They say play games. I say, hey, game. Okay, nice one. You get. So that's the egg problem. How to now build a great game and what a great game is. And I would say I don't have an answer to that. Everybody has their perception of what that answer, what that solution is. For us, the pathway that can lead us to that is community and collaboration. And that's what we are following, right? And we don't know what other people think, but we're trying it out, and we're excited to see where it will take us.
For the great game part, I don't think it takes one to build, but we've already established the fact that it takes a community. Well, not a community, but it takes people collaborating to build. Right? Experienced people. One key thing also that I actually wanted to touch on was the fact where you said your family do not know what you are doing. How would you explain virtual and augmented reality to the woman that sells pepper out there? And that's a direct question. I'd like you to use 30 seconds to actually, how would you explain virtual and augmented reality to a woman that sells pepper? I'm not talking about a person that uses their laptop and has seen VFX. Yes. How would you?
So for me personally, I would focus on show, don't tell.
Right.
Yes, so I would show her. Now, the bigger problem for me is not to show her or make her experience it. That's what I'll focus on, show and experience. I think the bigger problem for me is not to communicate the value of it to her, because that's the bigger problem I think we have. So, don't bring that question to me.
No. Nice answer. But that has been like one of the biggest problems that I've faced in being in the ecosystem. Well, not just the value. We'll get back to value, because at the end of the day, some people might use something for 2 years without actually knowing the value, without actually thinking about the value, but it provides, they still use it, right? There's usage and there's value. For now, I don't even think there is putting in words without actually showing. I don't think we can actually put it in words. And even when you show them, with the level of superstition here, some ladies will just scream and things like that. But yeah, so being in the virtual and augmented reality space, one thing that I've seen that I think might lead to this chicken and egg sort of problem. This is a sort of chicken and egg too, because at the end of the day, if we are going to become an ecosystem where there are a lot of people engaging in the technology, then most of us should know about the technology, but that is not the fact now. Right now, we speak all the grammar about games and virtual reality and augmented reality, but at least this is my own percentage. Right? At least 80% of us, that's Nigerians, cannot actually comprehend what virtual and augmented reality is. And I would say it's because of what you said, like they've not actually experienced it. So I see a particular problem here where there are not that much people engaging with the technology, and it's not their fault. So there's cost to it. There's
huge
cost implications.
It's very expensive.
Right, very expensive gadgets. There are even developers that have been developing for the last 2 years that have not had a VR headset to test. They are just deploying to like the web.
Those ones are not developers, they are
No. So you are a developer because you don't have money to buy like a VR headset. You are not a developer. You are a developer.
Please, if you are a developer, don't mind me.
Throughout our school days, when I was in school, right, I did not have VR headset.
This is a real problem. What you are saying is a real problem.
We had to deploy to like mobile phones, you know, that 360 sort of thing.
Or even when Google Cardboard, stuff like that.
Right. The best we could come across was Google Cardboard, and that even took time, right? And we went for competitions, maybe like a design challenge or things like that. All you have to do in terms of, we built our product on Unity. We can show them that this is 360 on our system, but the judge could not experience it. We that we are selling it, we've not experienced deep one. we just built and we keep like selling it. So if our current ecosystem, or if most of us, because I feel like this lack of, we are stuck in a bubble. We that are either developers or people in the ecosystem. Even people that are yet to experience it but know about it, they are in that bubble with us. There are people outside that bubble that forms the majority of us that have never ever heard of the technology. Even those that have heard do not even know, they've only heard the words. And those that know probably just saw things on maybe a Marvel movie or something. So how can that problem be solved? And I'll give you like one solution that I see that has been working, right? I think large organizations that have money to invest can actually invest in driving the adoption of this technology, right? So they have the money to actually invest into it, and I think they can bring it to the layman. There are institutions like gaming. Maybe if you go to ShopRite, there are people that have like this VR.
Exactly. They're doing a lot.
So at least they are profit oriented, but at least I can tell you that many people have experienced that VR thing there, like VR as a technology there. They might have just experienced it as fun, but then if I met them and I was telling them, oh, I do virtual and augmented reality, and they say, what is it? I would say, no. If they say, what is it? And I say, oh, have you been to ShopRite? That game that you put on, at least you have a reference point to work from. And that's my biggest problem. I think many people outside that bubble do not have reference points to work from. It's not. So one of the solutions that I see is like organizations, large organizations, bringing it out there. So at least one thing that we do at MTN currently is the fact that before, like when we go for events, when I say we, I mean like the marketing, when they go for events, we have our stores and things like that. They are just like our products. But since Metaverse became part and parcel of like MTN, apart from other places that it is utilized, one key place was actually that marketing. And for marketing, to them, it was actually a way for us to project our brand forward in terms of our innovative thinking. But to me, as like a person in this ecosystem, I found it as a key way for us to get the technology out there to ordinary people. So ordinary people that just came to experience an event, random events, they get to, oh, have you tried like virtual reality before? Many of them say no. Please come and try it. This is a space that we built. Then I start telling them about, oh, we can actually apply this in meetings. We can actually use this for manufacturing. They are mind blown, right? Yeah. And how many can we like cover through such things, right?
True.
So if most of us exist outside that bubble, how do you think we can get into the bubble? Because it can't be about telling them about this sort of community that you're talking about. Yeah. Those are people that are passionate about building something.
Exactly.
They are different from the woman that sells pepper out there. Yeah. And if the woman that sells pepper out there does not get it, I doubt that we might be able to infiltrate the ecosystem effectively. Use fintech as an example. The woman out there knows why she should get that
money.
Yeah, exactly.
Money. Give me money.
Fintech is important. Yeah. As long as tell her that she can transfer her 2K.
Exactly.
She does not have to trek to go and deliver that 2K. She understands that. So how do we, from your opinion, permeate? Because if we do not permeate, we might just stay in our bubble thinking we are moving.
Yeah. And we're kind of stuck. Yeah. So that's a great one. You answered the question. You brought in more questions, which I'll throw back to you. I'm really excited about it. Yeah. But the first thing is, I think the first thing I want to say is let's drop all the grammar and everything for a bit. I think this is where we all stakeholders in the industry need to come down, sit, and interact with one another, right? We need to do a lot of, is it sensitization or awareness or so? And then we also need to target the right audience, perhaps the Gen Zs and then the corporates, right? That's something, there's someone, Louis White in Port Harcourt, is the founder of Gameverse Africa. That's something he's doing very well. I mean, I can't travel to South Africa. I'm scared. I'm traumatized of I say South Africa. I can't travel to the South. I'm traumatized of you get traveling right now, looking at insecurity and all. And then going to Port Harcourt by road or something. The funds are not really, you get my point. But he has been traveling around, like covering the East and South, looking at getting them to understand their career pathways in this immersive and interactive media industry. It's not every time UI design, you get, it's not every time web.
What was his name again?
Louis White, Gameverse Africa.
Yes. And he has been traveling in Nigeria.
He's even gone as way down to the north to connect with the stakeholders there, and he's doing an excellent and amazing job. I really love it. And if you look at another organization, Emisi 3D has also been having this use case hangouts. That's the way I love to see it, where they can say, oh, XR for fashion, XR for people in the banking industry. You get my point. Because one question I would have loved to pose back is, when you say explaining to the average local woman or so, the first question I would ask is, why? The reason fintech tried to get that woman to understand is because there will be an exchange of value. You get the point? There will be they're not doing it, they're not teaching her to use their app just because they want her to not use their app. They want her to transact and they are going to make money. So for us, that question has to come down to why. Why do we need that woman to know? But we do need the Gen Zs to know, because those people spend money. We need that money. And we need to let them know that there are products from within the continent that they can also pay. You get the point. Yeah. So the first thing is why. We need to get our target audience very clear. And like you said as well, large innovative organizations really need to invest in this. But then they would also ask you why. And you now need to give them, no, this falls on us. I have struggled with it as well, but now I'm being more intentional that if I'm approaching any organization, I know why I'm coming to you. And I have at least 90% of the answers. Because I can't just walk up to you and say, oh, I'm doing games or so, sponsor me or support me to go to 200 schools or even 10 schools. Why? What do I gain? And for some, it's going to be direct value. For many, we have to start identifying indirect values for them. But there has to be that value exchange. That's something I'm becoming much more aware of that is missing in our industry. We need to state clear value propositions for all stakeholders we are bringing on board. Because once they see it, it might not be you make money today, you might make money later. It might be your brand would stick more, right? It might be we'll create a service for you. Or we're going to show 500 students about VR. We're going to create a VR experience about your own brand. And you know that that brand is targeting children. This is the business side. This is what we need to focus on because we need to sensitize. Like you said, a lot of people don't know. A lot more act as if they know. Right? And
but at least they exist within the bubble. The ones that act as if they know, they exist within the bubble at least.
Yeah. So we need to stay that clear value exchange. We need to know our right audience. We need to sensitize. I would want all stakeholders to let's drop that attitude of, oh, we are the best, we're the number one in Africa, we're the one doing the most work. For me, I just want to make money. I want an industry that can pay. The industry is not paying me enough. Yeah. So yeah.
Reflecting on your journey, your journey so far, what would you say? Although you are just starting, so it's not like you are an 80-year-old man.
Yeah.
What would you say has been one of the proudest moments of your career so far?
The proudest moment is keeping Africa Communicate running up to now. Like, man, it's super. I think it's the most difficult thing I've done all my life so far, to be very candid. And Africa Communicate is something we are very proud of. The team is very, very proud of. The kind of work we do, I don't think I've ever done it in my life. I don't think I've ever invested so much in anything I'm doing. So, and then the impact, like we have people who have gotten jobs within, outside the continent. Now we have some people who have been supported to continue building their own dreams through the prototype grants or the support, the network. So people have formed teams just by being in that community. Those little things are what, when they come together and sum up, is the impact we're making. And that's the best thing I've done.
And I would say that's commendable. Yeah. That's commendable. You still have a long way to go.
Long way.
You still have a long way, at least. But this level that you're starting from, it's commendable, to be honest.
Thank you.
Right. So what ambition drives you for the future, apart from money? Because I know you're not money.
That money you put aside. That money you put aside.
You want to bring it back.
Bring it back. Yeah. Aside money, it's the to be candid, it's the potential of making huge change. Looking at the fact that the creative industry is an industry that can be used as a soft power tool. You can drive agenda, propaganda, social change. You can do so much with it.
Don't drive propaganda. Come on. Don't drive propaganda.
It's such a powerful opportunity to get the avenue to influence your society. Right. That's what it gives us. We're looking at cultural representation. We're looking at appropriation of ourselves as a people in media, right? You're looking at storytelling. That's the sector we are in. Games go beyond just shooting or so. There's so much more we can do. And so being at the forefront of that sector, being in this new, unique way, which is going to really drive the way content is consumed in the future. Right? I mean, from cassettes or VHS to CDs, now everybody is streaming. The screen is getting closer to the eyes. But this is like new media. This is what people in other sectors call new media, and we are in it. So we have the opportunity to shape what our future looks like, and it's exciting to be a part of that.
Yes, I think I agree with you. Like, it gives us a new medium or opportunity to express ourselves as Africans, as creatives, and that's also something I'm really proud of. Yeah. Right, this particular new medium that we're given
and make money.
And make money. For people looking to go into the gaming ecosystem, and gaming, I think it has been used also covering virtual and augmented reality, FYI. Right? So for those looking to go into the gaming ecosystem, one advice for them?
It's tough. It's seriously tough. So you should know what you want to really do. Forget the passion will only take you as far, to be very candid. So you also need to make strategic decisions if you're entering this space. I can tell you certainly in Nigeria, there is no game company now that is paying maybe ₦1 million per month as at now, or 1.2 or 1.5. And then
gaming.
Yeah.
That's purely gaming.
Okay, now so it looks like the VR guys are making billions. So we'll come there. But what I'm just trying to get at is, you should know that it's not going to happen quickly. It might take you up to a decade for you to find a proper footing. So make strategic decisions. Know the background you're coming. Some people that are thriving in this space, they have some form of support system that to get the headset, it's easier for them. Or if they don't make money in 3 months, they can still survive. Know where you are coming from. Because nobody will pity you. Everybody will laugh at you if you don't make it. So make that strategic decision of how far you want to go, where you want to go, and where you should be. Sometimes if you have the opportunity, it might be best for you to go out there and build this career in this industry, then come back to this place. You have to be strategic about it because passion will only take you as far. And the industry is tough. A lot of us, the stakeholders, forget that we are smiling and all, we're still struggling.
Hungry, they catch us.
We're still struggling and we're looking for ways to become sustainable. But I can tell you clearly the future of this sector is bright. So now is the best time to come in, but don't just come in because someone told you it's bright. Come in because you have a plan of how to make it bright for you. Yeah.
Balance passion with common sense.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, passion would not feed you, right?
At all.
You need to balance passion with common sense.
Yeah.
So I think you've given like the amazing advices already. For creatives, entrepreneurs that are not just like gaming.
Yeah.
Another advice, if there's any.
Put your best foot forward. Don't just create products. Nobody's going to applaud you for being an African abuse games. That year has passed. There was a time like that you make the papers immediately. First African to build mobile game. First African to that. Those years have passed. So put your best foot forward. If you're building something, build it. Know that you're building for a global audience, especially not just the Nigerian market. It's not like the Nigerian market can even cater for you very much. After all, except you are going into gambling or something, to be very candid. So know you're building for a global audience and create what the global audience can consume, because you need to put revenue at the forefront. How would you make money? That should be your North Star. Maybe not too much, but balance it once more. Balance it. But know that you have to make money if you really want to continue building.
Right. If you had to pick one video game that best represents your journey, what would it be?
Video game.
So no video game best represents your journey.
Or maybe Pac-Man. It's difficult.
Okay. So, how about influential figures that you would like to meet, dead or alive? 2 or 3.
In the games industry, I would definitely love to meet Guy Youngster. That was my mentor. And he does a lot of things that are very similar to what I do as well. Looking at community events, business side of the industry. Yeah, I follow him closely. He's the one that runs the games industry gathering. Yes, that's like the biggest community in the whole world. Game developers that are professionals. And I'd love to meet him. I have a lot of questions. I've not disturbed him in mail over time. That's one person I do know. Right. Another person?
That's fine. Fine.
Exactly.
So thank you very much for coming on the show, Oscar.
Yeah.
I think the discussion was actually amazing. Mm-hmm. I'm sure people that listened, they've learned a lot from you. I've actually learned a lot. Thank you for sharing your wisdom.
Which wisdom?
Waiting women and the money. Now the money. After the wisdom, not the money. So thank you very much. I hope to speak with you again.
Yeah, same here.